I don't have many guys that I call my silent mentors, but this brother is definitely one of them. I keep an eye on him, man. An amazing brother. NBA insider Brandon Scoop B. Robinson joins us now. Scoop
Hey,
B, what's going on, my guy?
working my tail off. How you?
Man, I'm already knowing, man. It's good to have you on the show, bro. Welcome to the Anthony Sain Show, of course, brother. I've been peeping you out on Twitter, but I really started following you big time during the whole Jimmy Butler to Memphis fiasco that was going on a few months back.
Remember?
Yeah, I know you do, but going back to that whole thing, man. Like, what was that? What was that whole? Describe their process because I know you got a lot of heat during that time as well. You get a lot of heat all the time, but describe their process as far as
Comes with the
the
territory.
information. Yeah.
Um, that was in February, I believe, like January,
Hmm.
February.
Mm-hmm.
If my recollection serves me correctly, this was during the time when I was getting a lot of intel that supported the fact that Jimmy was interested in Milwaukee,
Hmm.
and that mutually there was interest. Of course, a guy that went to Marquette and has ties to
Hmm.
the area, and then on the flip side, um, Memphis was a team that I gauged interest in those who know over on that side,
Hmm.
and they'd welcome him, from what I was told. But then I was hearing through back channels that he didn't want to go, and then you kind of see the news that came out recently, or it wasn't news. It was opinion based thought process on First Take.
Hmm.
Stephen A. Smith said that a lot of guys don't want to come to Memphis because they don't feel safe. And to me, when I heard that, I don't know that Jimmy fit that bill. Jimmy
Hmm.
is a pretty how do I phrase this? He's a self-aware but also secure guy. So I didn't see that being an issue. But then
Right.
the Warriors conversation came about, and I was having conversations with the Suns, and there was interest there, of course, but
Hmm.
it was more along the lines of the fact that the Bradley Beal contract needed to be moved, and um, you know, Miami is interested in Bradley Beal, still is. It just didn't work
Hmm.
out. There was just a lot of. Forgive me for not giving it to you as laser sharp as I had it back in January.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
There's been a lot of snowstorms and a lot of things that have happened since. I'm an East Coaster, but the way that I remember it, there was interest from Memphis. It was just a matter of how do we make this happen. There was a lot of conversation about on the Sun side, and the Suns had a lot of issues there. It just was a lot of moving parts that were there. So here
Hmm.
we are now in July, and some of those things that I said, are kind of finding their way back on the Memphis side because you're hearing this conversation and this dialogue about players and them not wanting to come to Memphis or just what Memphis looks like, and
Hmm.
that's it. That's what I got.
It's been a common refrain here that the reason why Jimmy didn't want to come is because it got back to his camp that Memphis wasn't interested in extending him and giving him the deal that Golden State did. And if that was the case, it probably would have been a Jimmy Butler and Memphis
Yeah.
connection going on. Do you
Mm-hmm.
pretty much agree with that as well?
I can see it. I won't say I agree with it. I can see it, but
Mm-hmm.
but if you remember, this was during a time where Taylor Jenkins was still a head coach,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I can tell you that back then, I can tell you on record that John Morant wanted Jimmy in Memphis,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a thought process there that would help bolster that team, and that team would be in a good spot playoff wise, competitive
Yeah.
wise. They were missing that one piece. So as far as what you said about not wanting to extend, I've also heard on the back end different reports. Like I've heard on one end what you said, but I've also heard on
Mm-hmm.
the end Jimmy wouldn't want to resign and extend.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard it both ways, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. For sure. For sure. So far, man, it's been a pretty busy free agent season. Kind of busy in a different way. Not as many big signings with guys going to new teams, but just busy as far as creative ways that teams are building their roster, signing trades, and
Right.
all these stuff, using trading to exceptions, and all you like. Especially you look at what the Grizzlies did, right? The way that they maneuver things to get under the cap to renegotiate and extend Jaren Jackson's contract, something I never heard of until later this year. Then people were saying, "Well, that's what they did with Laurie Markkinen. That's what they did with all these different guys, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of what's your opinion so far on the not just the activity, but the creativity that some teams are using to build their rosters going forward?
Kudos to them. I don't have an ill will to speak. I mean, even when you look
Mm.
at the Bucks waiving
Yeah.
Damian Lillard, um, creative ways to pay the money out and things like that. Like,
Mm.
the math is mathing. So I'm not really surprised. I think it's just, I think in the climate that we're in, and guys, players and organizations are being more loyal or more on the same page with representation and with
Mm.
the organizations. And I think that that's kind of indicative upon the fact that a lot of front office people are former agents. And so,
Mm.
and those players' agents have crossed paths with those front office people. So there's
Yeah.
always a conversation. There's always consistent communication between agents, front office people, and more. And I think that's just where we are right now.
I'm gonna piggyback on something you just said, because something that we hear a lot in Memphis. A lot of people say these. A lot of people say this, but I really don't think they understand how much actual truth may be to what they're saying. They're not saying exactly this, but this is what I'm gonna say. And that's Zach Kleiman, the GM of the Grizzlies, right? He came in as a lawyer. He doesn't have that agent background. He doesn't have that former player background either. Do you think that his background kind of makes things difficult to navigate when it comes down to being a general manager and pulling off certain moves that he may want to pull, because he
Um,
didn't come from that fraternity that these guys come from?
I won't badmouth him because I don't want to get any phone calls, but I'll speak in generalities in this specific
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
I think that today's general manager or team president is either a former player who studied under general managers or owners, or he's an agent who became a president or a GM. Like, if we're looking at the coaching situations throughout sports, not just basketball or football, where you have a Dion who was a marquee player and then became a coach at college level. You saw that in football. Or
Right.
you have someone like a Jason Kidd or a Steve Nash who was a point guard and was respected and was an extension on the floor and then became a head coach, right? You're seeing a similar transition in front office. But then you're also seeing hybrids. Like you're seeing, for example, how the former Warriors GM Bob Myers was in Golden State, left, is doing TV, and then it's basically a connector of dots for the Washington Commanders. And it's all about relationships. It's all about who will answer your phone calls. And it's about knowledge and what people perceive you to be. And if they perceive you to be as such, you will always have a job. You will always have staying. As it relates to the general manager, Mr. Kleiman of the Memphis Grizzlies, if you're looking for more connectivity, it'll come. But I kind of push back on that a little bit, because in this space, everybody knows everybody. Everybody has a book of numbers that they can call. And I've also learned this in having conversations with other general managers. There are general managers that have whole group chats. There are general managers that and or team owners who golf together, whose families know one another. I mean, heck, I know that if you guys know the drink Sincoro, that is owned by the Boston, the majority owner of the Boston Celtics. It's with Grossbeck and Emilia Fasari. They co-own it with Michael Jordan. They co-own it with Jeannie Buss. They co-own it with the owner of the Bucks and the Denver Nuggets. They all go on trips together and hang out. Like, the NBA is really, it's not that big. Like, you've got team owners that own a liquor brand together. So you don't think managers are finding ways to connect as well? So I think with him, he may have his group of people, and maybe, over time, he'll expand it even more, or kind of dial back a little bit. I just think about people's preferences.
For sure. In regards to the Grizzlies, again, I know you're a very informed guy. The Grizzlies, of course, we need a center right now. We got Jaren Jackson Jr., who may be out maybe for the first few weeks of the season, possibly month or so. Are you hearing any rumblings about the Memphis Grizzlies? I'm not saying you. I'm not trying to get you to come out and say names of what you're hearing. If you want to do that, you can do that too. But are you hearing any rumblings regarding the Grizzlies being busy this offseason?
You ain't gonna get me because the answer is no. I haven't heard it.
All right, got you. Another thing I wanted to ask you, you are a person who speaks your mind very well on Twitter. That's something I definitely admire about you. How are you able to navigate through the nonsense and the double standards, so to speak, that you see on Twitter?
Because half of the shit I laugh at, half
Right.
the shit I share to my friends in group text, and half of it is fucking dumb. Twitter is stupid.
Facts.
Listen, if you know somebody's stupid, why respond stupidly back? When you know somebody's dumb, when you know the rooms that you're in, who gives a fuck?
Right, come on, bro. Come on.
Flip that, Kenny.
So when you respond with logic, people get insulted because
they want to hear dumb shit.
Yeah. And I mean, like you asked me about that, like people. So my mom passed away 3 years ago, had stage 4 cancer.
Yeah, I saw that.
If you look at the pin tweet on my Twitter account, it's a picture of my mother and I. And the caption is "I love you." If you go down the comments,
the mentions, yeah,
people calling us fat motherfuckers, people calling me this, people be calling, and it's like, bro, I'm big. I'm not Yokozuna big, and I'm sexy. So like when you talk about me and you talk about my mother's not here to defend herself. But it's like, yo, you really sick. People will find ways to pick. They'll say stuff to you online that they wouldn't say to your face.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's crazy because I grew up in an era where there was rules of engagement. There's rules. There's certain places you don't talk about somebody's mother. You damn sure don't talk about somebody's dead mother. And it's not that they don't know. They know, and they're still doing it because they're looking for reaction. But when you know who you are, you're secure yourself, that actually offends people more. I'm finding it's weird energy.
Sain, you didn't tell me he was going to church today, man. That'll preach, man. That's
I had
awesome.
to bring my guy on, man, for real. Yeah, I had to bring him on. Because I found myself being entertained by some nonsense concerning me yesterday. It was pure comedy. And it was free, man. Like, to be able to watch this for free is amazing. But yeah, but for sure. I got one final question for you, Scoop, before we let you go. Do you think that the rumors of unrest in Los Angeles are real concerning LeBron James and the Lakers?
I think that there are conversations that are being had. I think the first step is him requesting a trade. I think that, well, I've shared this, and you can check out my over at scoopy.com in the blog section. I wrote an article earlier this week where I discussed a conversation that LeBron and Kyrie had 2 years ago where they were on the phone talking. And I know if you pay attention to my reporting, you know that you take 2 things to the bank for sure. Things about the New Orleans Pelicans and things concerning Kyrie Irving. Track record speaks for itself. And I know that there was a conversation that the two of them had. And at the end of the conversation, LeBron and Kyrie, concluded with LeBron telling Kyrie that I'll think about it. And, I guess he's been thinking about it for 2 years. But I saw a report that came out today from Dave McMenamin, who shared that basically the Mavs are not willing to offer anything from their core nucleus to get LeBron James, and that it would come down to whether or not he got a buyout. And that's kind of similar information that I got from someone close to LeBron 2 years ago. They said to me, LeBron is not going to LA, or excuse me, is not going to Dallas. Kyrie can come to LA, and LeBron is damn sure not going to take a buyout. So those are the things I'm hearing. I know that in order for him to go to Cleveland, a lot of mountains would have to be moved. And it's kind of similar to Dallas, where you'd have to give up a ton of your core nucleus in order to make that happen. So then you look at the Warriors, you look at Denver. I know that there a few years ago where there was rumors, I think early on in like 2019, about LeBron potentially wanting to be traded. I know Denver's name was a name that I was hearing back then. Again, it's 2025 now, excuse me. I think it's a situation where LA has to continue to get certain pieces. I don't subscribe to the notion that you trade Rui Hachimura and a bunch of other guys to get Andrew Wiggins. I think that is Miami wanting to get better when people are just not wanting to go to Miami like that. I said something about that a couple of months ago on the internet, particularly Miami Heat Twitter. Thought I was crazy, but that's part of the reason why there's a difficulty with even Giannis coming to Miami because of just the old school way of doing things. A lot of these players are more progressive and they want a player's coach and a player's front office, and there's a logjam there. I think sometimes guys like Pat Riley can be in their own way. So answer to your question about LeBron specifically, if he asks for a trade formally, there will be swarms of teams lining up at their door. I have not heard anything currently to suggest that he has formally asked out. I also think that LeBron typically lasts about 4 years, 3 to 4 years on a team before he goes elsewhere. LA, he's been there a lot longer. I think coming home to Cleveland would be dope. I thought when he signed that extension with the Lakers, Cleveland would have been a good fit back then. So would the Philadelphia 76ers. 2025, different ball game. I think Cleveland would have a lot.
It's just, I get it, man. It just sounds crazy to me to think about. If I'm a team, if I'm giving you enough money to match a $53 million contract for 41-year-old LeBron James, it seems crazy, bro. Like trading him just seems so crazy in 2020. Trading for him at this point just sounds crazy.
It's interesting you bring that up because, when you looked at my reporting last month about the Spurs, the conversation between Phoenix and San Antonio simply was that San Antonio did not like the thought process of investing in a 2-year rental with KD potentially, right? And I know that when Phoenix and San Antonio were having conversations, San Antonio offered Phoenix the 14th pick in this year's draft and other pieces in that, and Phoenix said no. Phoenix wanted the number 2 pick. And then I reported also that Dylan Harper had his workouts with the Spurs twice, once in San Antonio, at his high school, Don Bosco Prep in New Jersey. I'm actually an alum. Don Bosco, the jersey in the back. Don Bosco Prep.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
The conversation that San Antonio was having was they did not see investing 2 years in KD. And I'm not calling KD old. I respect his game. I still think he has a lot left. But a lot of times people look at names and don't look at mileage and how much time certain people may have left. And does that investment equal an instant championship? I think those are the questions that they're asking. So a lot of times teams want the slow cooked meal at home rather than Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, and Burger King. You can't always have it your way.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a good reminder for Grizzlies fans. We're trying to build in a smaller market as well. Just that we need to be patient with the process, trust the process. That you can have a homegrown team similar to an Indiana or Oklahoma City who's just built through the draft and acquiring some of those fringe pieces. I do want to ask a question real quick about the Kevin Durant trade. There's been some rumors in the last couple of days that could kind of expand into a larger, possibly an 8-team trade. Brandon, are you hearing any validity to that, or is that just media speak?
I can see it, and I can see it. I haven't heard anything, no, but I can see it based upon past examples, and one that comes to mind was the Russell Westbrook Washington. Lakers trade where they expanded the trade. And I remember contacting a GM on one of those teams. And I said to them, do you see it just being straight up Russell, Kuzma, and what have you? And they said to me, I've already cursed. So I don't give
a fuck.
Go ahead,
bro.
Go ahead. Yeah, do you? They said, I don't give a fuck how long it takes. We're not budging just because other teams want us to. We're going to ride this shit out. And so when I saw that news the other day, to me, it was the same energy. Based off of the fact that there was a precedent set a few years ago with that trade. And you saw, if I'm not mistaken, Brooklyn was in that particular trade. The Wizards, the Lakers, I think Sacramento was in it because it expanded. Wasn't Spencer Dinwiddie? Like it was just a lot of.
I think it was. Yep.
So in answer to your question, yes, I can see it being expanded because a lot of teams want to cut or keep cap space and be able to make other moves. So no, it would be surprising to me if it was 7 or 8 teams.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Scoop, we appreciate you coming on today, man. I'm gonna let you get back to your day. Thank you so much, brother. You came in and dropped a sermon on us down here in the South. It's a church on every corner, man. Hey, so you speaking our language, man, for sure.
Fellow believers,
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm thank you for the opportunity to be myself.
For sure.